Welcome to another exciting episode of the Business of Digital podcast, featuring your hosts, Matt Siltala and Dave Rohr. Hey guys, excited to have you guys join us on another one of these Business of Digital podcast episodes, and we are continuing our 100th episode series, if I can talk right, Dave.
Nope.
But how you doing, Dave?
Now that you're recording, you can't talk. That's kind of how it works.
That's just exactly how it works, Murphy's Law. So I'm excited about this series, and I'm excited about our guest today. And I just want to give a virtual wave and say hi to my good friend, Debra Mastaler. Hey, how you doing, Debra?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you so much for being on. I was just thinking about like all the stuff that I wanted to say and talk about and intro with you when we were going to have you on this episode, because you are seriously one of my, when I look at like my mentors in the industry, my closest friends, people that have helped me probably the most. You're definitely on the top of, like if I had a top 5 list, you're like one of the first or second one on that list. And so, I'm excited to chat with you and go down memory lane and it's something that might be interesting for you, and I don't know if it's interesting for our listeners or not, but hey, I'm on the mic, so I get to talk right now. But I look back at when we were growing Dream Systems Media before it became Avalanche Media, and where we're at today. Just a couple of the people that you referred and that we kept as clients for years kind of helped us grow our business and get it to where that it is today, with 45 plus employees and just how it is. And I credit a lot of our success because of how you helped me in the early days. So I just wanted to put that out there and thank you. And I'm excited to chat with you.
Well, my pleasure. That old saying that it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Yeah.
is really true in every industry and every part of life. So, if there's somebody that I know that I think can help someone else, I think that connection is well worth being made.
And it's interesting because that's kind of exactly when we were chatting with Matt McGee on one of these episode series that we're doing here that you're a part of. One of his pieces of advice for people was like if you had one piece of advice or whatever, he was basically saying, be that person that is open to sharing, to talking. Don't be the jerk in the industry. Don't be the person that's not wanting to help or share. Like go out and help people and be there and stuff like that. So I thought that's interesting. But
yeah. That issue of inclusiveness is really important, and really what got this industry going, because there were a handful of people who had that understanding and had that belief early on. So it's one of the reasons why I'm here.
That's awesome.
Somebody included me.
So let's just kick it off, and kind of how I like doing this, and kind of it's evolved to is. There's that meme that goes around that I was so many years old when I learned how to properly peel a banana, or I was X amount of years old when I learned that this was whatever. And so Dave and I were chatting, Debra, and Dave is Florida Update old, and
I keep trying to think of a better one, and I can't. Like, there's nothing else around the 2003, 2004 that like always reminds me of that time. So yeah, I'm Florida Update old.
So Dave's Florida Update old. I'm Alta Vista Netscape old. And so where would you put yourself old in this scheme of things?
I'm dial-up old, I guess. Yeah. Back in the day, in order to update your Netscape or your AOL, you needed one of those little discs, the little round silver CD.
Oh, yeah.
I call them CD discs. And you used to get them in magazines and crazy places to use. So,
I remember where they were all over the checkout line at Walmart when you'd go through back in the day. If you remember that?
Or if you're ever at Simon Heseltine's house, you can probably find a lot of them.
Actually, I still have all my old Netscape. Yeah,
oh, wow.
I kept them as souvenirs. I'm kind of a collector of historical memorabilia. I have all my every single Google Dance shirt, all the swag, all
That's
the
awesome.
stuff I picked up through the years. I've kind of got a little history museum here.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a fun That'd be like a fun picture blog post at some point.
Yeah, I should. I haven't done that in a while. A long time ago, when I still had the link spiel, I did a post that showed all of the bags. Back in the day, they used to give you grocery bags or backpacks and so forth. I think some shows still do backpacks. But I must have had 150 of them. And I laid them all
Wow.
out, and from different shows, lots of different shows, and took a picture of it. Um, I've redirected the blog, so it's not online anymore, but I'll have to dig up that picture. It's pretty interesting.
That'd be fun.
Hmm.
So, I guess, and we're going to give you an opportunity. You can, let you tell people that maybe are not familiar with who you are, that are brand new to the industry, kind of where you're at with everything. But before we jump into any of that kind of stuff, I'm just curious, what are some of your earliest industry memories, or I guess what's either earliest memories or what's excited you the most about the industry back in the day? Like, what made you want to just be in this industry?
So, in 1998, was it 1998 or 97? I honestly don't remember. My daughter was born in 1998, so I think that's when it was. I had retired from working with Anheuser-Busch, and I thought I was going to stay home and raise my two children. My son was 2 at the time, my daughter was a newborn, and that lasted for about a week. And I climbed on our home computer and discovered that there was really no decent or central site online that sold organic food and clothing. And so I taught myself how to code, and I bought a disc that had front page on it, which, used to be a
Oh yeah.
platform that you could design sites, yeah, like a Dreamweaver, but much,
Yep.
much earlier rendition by a different company. And I built this directory of organic food and clothing. It was called the organicwaymarket.com. And if you search on that, you'll find pages that still link to the old site. The old site's long gone, but you'll still find the links out there that I placed on other people's sites
Wow.
to drive traffic to mine. And that's what I did. I didn't know that I was doing anything related to SEO or link building. I just knew that if other people had traffic and I didn't, if I put my link on their sites, hopefully they would follow. One thing led to another, and the people that purchased space on my directory, they wanted to know how I was SEOing. I'm doing air quotes. You can't see me obviously, but air quotes. And I was like, I don't even know what that is, and because my pages were ranking
Yeah.
for all these terms. And there was a big site online years ago called mothernature.com. It too is long gone. But it did something like what I was doing, but on a much bigger scale. And we were even outranking them.
Wow.
So I jumped online and I started reading about SEO. And that's when I met Jill Whalen.
Yeah.
And she, actually, that's not right. I met Heather Lloyd-Martin first. Heather and Jill, back in those days, this was like 2000, like maybe 99, 2000, they owned a business together, and it was called Rank Right. And Heather did all the writing, and Jill did all the optimization, the on-page optimization. And they also started giving classes and doing lectures and so forth, and doing conferences. And that's how I met them. I met Heather first. And when she heard what I was doing, she said, "Nah, you need to talk to Jill. That's more SEO." And so I met her, and we have been to this day still the very, very best of friends. But I went to work for her.
Wow.
Shortly thereafter, I decided that, the directory was fun, but I liked this SEO thing better. And she kind of took me under her wing, and she mentored me for about 18 months. And when it was done, in 2001, I opened up Alliance Link, and I was a full-blown link building company. And she used to pretty much hire me or refer me out to anybody that needed link work, and that's how it all started. And it kind of snowballed. And then in 2002, I did my first SES conference, and that's where I met everyone. We were talking about people earlier. Bruce was there, and Danny, of course, Chris Churchill, and Barbara Cole, John Hurd. There was just Frederick Marchini. There were just tons and tons of people that were there, and it was just, that was it. I was hooked. And that was the first of, I don't know, I counted up one time. I think I've done 198 shows since then.
Holy cow!
I
Really?
know. I know.
That is crazy.
I
Yeah.
know.
So that's actually a perfect segue into, for all our listeners, because if you haven't figured it out yet, what we're talking with Deborah about, we're doing this reminiscing kind of with her expertise in link building, and what she's done with it in the past, like we're learning, and kind of where it is today, and all that good stuff. And so I guess maybe it's a good time to kind of just share with people where you're at now with it, and kind of just maybe share your thoughts on just how link building has evolved over the years, and where you see it going. Is it going away? Is it just getting stronger? Just share some of your thoughts on that. I think it would be fascinating for people to
Yeah.
hear.
You know, depending on the day of the week and the difficulty of the project I'm working on, I have lots of different ideas and opinions on all of that. But
Of course.
when you look back in the early days, all of the work that I did initially was direct outreach. You would link to someone, and email someone and say, hey, I have this site, and you have this site, and can we link together? Can we partner? It was really about partnerships. And for me, initially, when I started with the directory and with the organic goods, I was looking for anyone that had any kind of organic site. And it just made sense. I didn't put my organic links on sites selling baby strollers or running shoes, because that didn't make sense to me. What
Gotcha.
made sense to me was related sites. And so that's pretty much how most link builders worked, I would say, until the middle of the 2000s. It was pretty much outreach, direct email outreach, and then things started to change. The directories became, it was real easy to do directory submissions and article submissions, article directories, and then doing profile links. That was really big there for a while.
Well,
All of it.
sorry to just jump in here. One thing really quick that I just wanted to hear your thoughts on, if since you brought up the directory links, something that we were talking about with Matt McGee that I thought was fascinating,
Yeah.
and I saw this too, was how even back in the day, with one link in a Yahoo directory or the DMOS, for example, could be so significant to your website. Like it could even make or break a website, or even like change a ranking from page 3 to page 1. And so I don't know. I thought of that when you were mentioning that.
I used to have an Excel spreadsheet of directories that was pages and pages long, and we would just go through, and you had to hand submit initially, and then we got a little smarter as time went on, and we had people write scripts for us, and they were making the submissions. And then we were respinning articles and in the article directories and so forth. It was all very, very animated, or not animated, automated. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
wrong word. So that part of it was very automated, and there were a whole lot more resources back in those days too. Now there's really, besides Best of the Web, I'm not really sure that I remember or know of another directory that's out there that somebody could use. So the resources in those days were different. But you keep in mind too that blogging was not a thing back in those days. Blogging really didn't come around, until later,
It's true.
2006, 2007. That's when that whole craze kind of came along. So in the early days, that's what we were relying on and how we were doing. If you were not doing outreach, you were using some sort of article directory. And really the whole concept about content really wasn't brought up, or wasn't that important. You had content on your pages, but using content as a hook still wasn't quite the thing. That didn't come along until a little bit later. But keep in mind too that everything changes, and when you're working in the field of technology, there has to be an expectation there that things are going to change constantly.
For sure.
And Google kept growing and adding platforms and dropping platforms for that matter, but adding platforms and adding different ways of doing things and changing algorithms. And lessening the effect of this and adding the effect of that to where we are today. And I see that changing even more. I think this whole uh, artificial intelligence, this AI, the rank brain element of the algorithm is just going to continue to grow. And pages grow. The more pages you have, and the more pages that are submitted into the web, this thing just takes on a life of its own and will grow that way just naturally, even without them changing. But it's going to constantly change. They're going to try to do things as much as they possibly can so that no one entity is dependent on to make a decision. Links used to be the deciding factor. If you had a lot of links, regardless of where they came from, and you pointed them at a page, and if you were smart enough to use good anchor text, you could rank a page really, really easily. So every time people kind of figure out there's a little hook here or a little benefit there, they make the tweaks. They're listening to us. They know what's going on. They make those changes. So are things going to continue to change? Absolutely. Will there be the question always comes up, will there be a depreciation of links? And I'm not so sure. The web is trillions and trillions of links strong. You do have to depend on them. The bot still has to crawl those pages to find its way around. Until they find a way to change that, then links are still going to play an important factor in the rankings.
That kind of goes along with one of the things that Danny Sullivan said that I thought was right along those same lines, that I mean, you're talking about link building, but in regards to search engine optimization, as long as there's a search engine, there's going to be search engine optimization, or as long as there's engines or whatever, whether you call it an actual Google's a search engine, but there's lots of different places that technically you could call a search engine because you're looking up information. And so in that regard, what you're saying basically is, hey, as long as there's all these pages that are going to have to get crawled, there needs to be a way to navigate them is I guess what I'm getting at.
Yeah. I have greater angst these days with dealing with Amazon, than I do with Google. I mean, it's just hard, especially for little e-commerce sites. When giants like Amazon come along, and there'll be another one. I don't know what it is, but someone else will come along, just like Amazon, to give them a little bit of a run for their money.
Interesting.
So, big brands are still going to dominate. They're going to continue to dominate, especially if the way that things are going on the net now too, with ads and with click-through rates and with page load speeds and so on and so forth. All of those things combined, Google is still looking to give the best possible experience to a person as they sit down on the machine and look for something. Preferably you click an ad, but if you don't and you're clicking an organic result, they want to make sure that you're finding that organic result quickly and completely. So it will continue to change. There's no doubt about that. But the thing about link building, people keep saying, well, links are dead and SEO is dead. And I'm really not so sure about that. I think it's going to continue to be important. What's going to change, though, is the way that people work. With the emphasis right now on content and everybody flushing content like a toilet, frankly, into the internet, and onto the web, it's just trying to get people to see your content and link to it has become a major challenge. And there's so much content that just, floats in the wind, which absolutely doesn't help you at all. So the challenge here then is, how do you get your your content in front of people so that they link to it? And the smart people are the ones that are figuring that out. They're not figuring out content, what's going to resonate well with an audience. They're going to try to figure out where to put it. Everybody knows you need good content, but then that part of the equation that no one talks about is, where do you put it?
Right.
How do you get it in front of people? So the sourcing aspect, I think, of content is the next big frontier, and partnering with the right sites, knowing where your market is, knowing who it is that links, that's going to be the challenge.
I think that segues perfect into probably some
I got
questions that Dave. Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
As she was saying that, I'm like, I have a good one.
Yep, I was like,
maybe
I know
not.
Dave has a question.
Maybe I don't have a good one. We'll see. I don't want us to go too tactical and too down and we always go down to some sort of rabbit hole.
Oh, we do. Just
I know.
embrace it.
I know. But Debra, over the, is from when you started to now,
Yeah.
how has how you evaluate a target site changed? So it went from directories and just, anyone that would give you a link,
Yeah.
and even if it was off topic, to now where there's probably as many blog posts and articles coming out about how to thin and trim your content as there is about how to use LSI or how to, reuse content or craft content. I think there's just as much stuff coming about how to, trim your content or how to not link out because it's bad. Good God, please link out, people. But how you kind of analyze your opportunities and rate them changed over the years? Because I think that's probably changed a lot.
Yeah.
And maybe it hasn't.
No, I don't think it's changed a lot. The basic principles and tenets of marketing have never changed. I have always said this is really less about link building and more about link marketing. And so it's always the way that I've kind of looked at that. And I'm going to answer this, and I'm going to preface it with a little bit of a disclaimer up front. I understand that there are a lot of, there is a need, I guess, to put some kind of a definition or a label on everything to make it easy to work. We want to be able to look at a page and say, this page has a lot of authority or trust or whatever. And we create tools to help us determine what pages and what sites would be good partners in the link building atmosphere. The thing is that the only person that can really tell you that a page is good is the search engine. If you go to Google or if you go to Bing and you take a look at their search results, they're telling you without any tool involved except your browser that this page is a good page. And so when I look at that and I start running keywords, and I run hundreds of keywords on a campaign, and what you do then is you take the results. I was going to use the word scrape, but I'm old school and I know you're not supposed to use that word.
That's what Google does.
I know. But you take all of those results and sit down then and you look for some points of commonality. And typically you will find them. In the old days, Aaron Wall had a co-location tool that was awesome. And I don't think there's one on the web anymore. But what it would do is you would stick in your words, or you would stick in a URL, and it would show you all the different sites that were linking to that particular URL. When you found a pattern, then you knew that those pages were giving the page that you were trying to find out, who was linking to them, some strength. And the same thing with Google. I just scrape the results, put them into a spreadsheet, and physically eyeball them to see who's linking to that site repeatedly. And those are the pages that are probably sending the most weight to my to my client's site. And so we endeavor to get links on those particular pages. So yeah, call it whatever you want. Google does not use domain authority to determine how a page ranks. That is something, but the concept that's behind it is, I understand. And the concept that's behind that is good. But it's not always about the domain authority. There's a lot of factors that go into why a page ranks, or that the links that point to it, those pages are ranking. Links are nothing but conduits. You think of it, when you were a kid, you put the string between the two paper cups and you talk to each other between rooms. Well, that's all a link is. That's just the string between the two paper cups. The page is the one that passes all the, the authority through the string. So you've got to look for those pages. And once you find them, those are the pages that you want to partner with. And you have to do whatever you can do to become a partner on those pages. And if you can't, if for whatever reason you can't, then you need to look who's linking to them. So this is kind of like a backlinking, and you keep going back until you find the inspiration. And you will find them. You will find the sites. If you look hard enough, you will see trends. And that's the other thing. I have, because of the many, many years that I've been online, I'm able to see things just like you guys. You know that as experienced SEOs, you can pick up on a pattern very easily. It's hard to explain, but you can pick up on it. And it's the same thing with links. It's just like you can just see the network behind sites once you start scraping search results and looking at who's linking to whom. And that's pretty much the number one way that we figured out. The other thing is you just have to know your demographic, and you have to know where your demographic is hanging out. Most people want to put that on social media, and I think that's a mistake. I think that, for example, if you're working in the travel industry, if you don't have a very strong presence on TripAdvisor, say, or a site like TripAdvisor, I think you're selling yourself short. You know, because TripAdvisor is a huge community of people, and if you have a site there, you know, and you start getting involved in that particular community, you get the links, you get the name recognition, but you also get some insights into really strong writers and journalists and topics that you can write on and just kind of keep this whole perpetual content machine going. So get off of Google, get off of your Google fix, you know, Google crack or whatever you want to call it, and find these other sources, you know, that are out there.
Just you're talking about that, and it's so true, because it made me think about even some of the stuff that I like. You know, we before we started recording, we were chatting about Alaska, and I think about the reviews that I've written for the lodge that I stay at when I go there, and the thing that I'm always amazed at is the stats that come back with the pictures that I've uploaded or the reviews that I've written on TripAdvisor versus what that same review or pictures does like on a Google business listing or whatever. The TripAdvisor by far is what I see ranking everywhere, and it's also the thing that has like the most stats. Like I'm amazed at like one of the, and this was from pictures that I uploaded from a few years ago, but I was blown away because I got an email from TripAdvisor saying that, hey, your pictures have been, or this particular picture has been viewed over 300,000 times.
Holy cow.
And I'm like, wow, I never have seen anything like that from Google or Yelp or anything. So it's a great reminder and great point, Debra.
No, it's all about knowing your market. And so, I get it because I've been there, and I have a number of affiliate sites that I still work. And I know how hard it is. I know, when you're trying to run in place and juggle all the balls, it's tough. And we're kind of set up sometimes, I think, to fail as webmasters because, you buy hosting with a click, right? You can upload a WordPress with a click. You can download an image with a click. You can even upload some content with a click. And then you try to do the marketing and there's no click.
Or at least the one click that they tell you that there is the one click, we all know it doesn't work.
It does not work.
I bought that PBN network of 50 sites.
That's right. It doesn't.
I clicked and bought it. It should work.
How come I'm not ranking? How come I'm not even found in Google?
It's hard. It is. And I understand that. And so everyone looks for an answer. People make up things and call them basic things, call them fun names like skyscraper techniques and so forth. It's all good. It's all good. But the reality is it's just basic marketing. And you've got to know where your demographic hangs out. And it's more than just Google. It's more than just using these wonderful tools that we have. I mean, Ahrefs and all the rest of them, they're super tools if you know how to use them. And you got to look for patterns. And then you have to reach out and do some partnership marketing. This is not about relationship building, by the way. That whole thing, relationship building is link building, I think is kind of garbage, personally. Nobody wants a relationship with you. They don't care. Even, LinkedIn, they just want to connect so they can use it in their network.
Yep.
And it's the same thing, with link building. It's really more about partnership marketing.
My biggest problem is whenever I don't do that much link building, but whenever I've done it in the past and I'd go down rabbit holes of digging into competitors' links, and then I find that PBN or what I think is one, and then 2 hours later I'm like, wow, there's all of their sites.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, what did I just do today?
Yeah.
Nothing.
It is addictive, isn't it? It
It's just
really,
fun to like investigate and
yeah,
then know that I can figure it out, and then I do it, and then I'm like, well, that was a waste of time.
it is.
But it goes back to what all of our friend Ray Hoffman says. When you're investing your time, did it make you money, or is this going to make me money?
My favorite thing is from Mr. Dave Naylor, who has said that the biggest problem he ever has had with SEO is that anytime he tries to go shopping, he spends more time trying to figure out why sites are ranking. And 3 hours into trying to buy a part for his car,
Yeah.
he's now analyzed an entire vertical or some market and knows why everyone's ranking, but he still
Right.
hasn't bought the part.
Yeah. I had someone the other day, this was a European site that I did a little work for, and bless them, they had a rough time of it. What we take for granted in this country is, we have freedom of the press, and there's no issue, with linking basically, and journalists are not as afraid to link, and sites are not afraid to link, and all. It's not the case with the rest of the world in some cases. And so it was a challenge. It was a real challenge to help them. But one of the things I discovered once I started was there were some very, very basic things that I went through looking at, looking at competitive activity, looking at other countries, just looking at different ways of doing things. And I discovered that if you spend a little time and you really, really know your market, go back to the very, very basics. Go back to the people that can help you. There are associations out there behind every single business type in the land. I mean, truly, if you look at the list of associations in the world, from apples to zoology, there's an association for it. People are employed from those associations to promote the associations. They have marketing people behind them, and once you join those associations, it's their job to help you succeed, because they want to keep you as a member of the association. And so right there, you belong to a community of people through the association, or maybe it's a chamber of commerce, or in other places it's a what they call a town council. All of that, you have to go and you have to find your community. And once you get into your community, then you start working it. And those are just basic things that take time and take a little creative thought. And sadly, because we're of that one-click mentality, we don't always look at those opportunities. So
Gotcha.
that's really, I think, where it's all headed. It's really headed into it's back to who you know.
It's come full circle now.
Yeah, it really is.
So, I guess, because there's some questions that I definitely want to ask you, and I'd love to get your take on some of this. But like, what is one piece of advice that you'd give to someone that's new in this industry, someone that's new to link building, if you will, or someone that thinks they want to make their career in link building? And I don't know what would be your, and if it leads to more pieces of advice, but what would be like your main piece of advice to give someone that's pursuing the industry?
I would probably encourage you to find a group of people like yourself on Facebook. One of the best things that I have had is the support of people within certain Facebook groups through the years, helping me either answer a question, or meet somebody or something like that. I had the opportunity, the benefit and the pleasure of belonging to the SEO book forum for many, many years. And that was the best thing I could ever have done. Webmaster World Forum, again, the Facebook groups, join an association, get involved with people who are of like mind and that are in the same industry, and share your resources. There are some great sites online that do that. I also strongly recommend, and not just because, and I have to say, disclaimer, I am involved with these folks professionally, but the OMCP, it's OMCP. If you go and get your certification from them, even if you just go and take the classes to see how well it is this subject matter, you will come out a much better person for it, and a much stronger practitioner, because those courses are hard. I helped right. The link building course there, it's rough, but it's extremely thorough. And I took the link building certifications and the SEO certifications, and they were hard. But I think, having real clarity in your craft is paramount. And circling in with people that are like you and have that same desire to learn. Go to the meetups. There's a lot of conferences out there right now that you can attend. There's so many, I don't want to name them because then I forget somebody and somebody gets mad.
That never happens online.
No, I know. But there's tons of them out there. And I would suggest that you keep your education up. Just keep learning and don't be afraid to ask questions. The last place the first place I go to every day is I head over to the Webmaster Forum on Google, and I look through all the different organic threads and local threads. Local SEO too is another one. And I look at those threads every day to see who's asked what questions, and if the Google people have come in and answered, or the special helpers that they have. I've forgotten now what they call them, but they're like super moderators there.
Gotcha.
They respond to. I think like Ashley Berman Hale was one over there. I used to follow her. Very smart. So all of those people, keep learning. Keep your eyes and ears open. Keep sucking it up.
I think it's fantastic advice, because that's one of the things that's been great for me as well, being a part of certain groups, and whether it's a forum or a group on Facebook or whatever, I think that's fantastic advice. I appreciate that. And so I'm just curious though, maybe we've alluded to it a little bit, but where do you see link building going, or where do you see it at 10 years from now, or even 5 years from now, 10 years from now? What are your thoughts on that?
So I don't know, but that's really far because stuff changes so quickly. But I would say in the near future, if you're not focused on really creating content for voice search, I think you're going to miss out. Not because people have so many of these little machines in their homes that they're screaming at. What are they called? The virtual assistants or whatever. Because it's even looked like some of their popularity has waned a little bit, but because people are on their phones and they're on their watches, and they're driving in the car or whatever, I think more and more of that you're going to see people asking for help, and you need to be able to answer simple questions. And the problem with that is that the competitive nature of a simple question is huge, right? So whatever it is that you're trying to sell, you need to own. You need to own it. If you're selling running shoes, or if you're selling call center software, whatever, you need to own those questions. You need to own that content, and you really need to be the place online that people know and come to top of mind when you think about those particular keywords, and do whatever it is that you can do to make yourself number one. Because I think that's only going to get bigger and keep changing. And I think you're just going to continually see changes. At this point now, this is, I think, less about combating spam. I think they were very much against the SEO community, if you will, years ago, when they did the whole animal slaughter updates. When all of that changed, I think that was very much, driven toward us, and probably driven toward us because the whole advent of AI was coming down the pike. But that's all here now, and that's just going to get, bigger and better and faster and stronger, to where they're relying less on clicks and links. I wish I had a crystal ball to tell you how all that would work. I'm just not that smart, but I can tell you that it's just technology. I mean, look where we were 5 years ago, even with cell phones, and where we are today, or mobile phones or smartphones.
I just laugh at like my kids. Like the other day, I mentioned to Daniel, I said something about, well, just get on Google and search for it, because he kept trying to do something with his voice assist or whatever, and he's like, only old people Google. And I was like, hey,
yeah, that's true.
You pipe down, youngin'. No,
that's true.
I'm scared to have an Alexa in my house, because when the 5-year-old figures out that if you talk to it, it orders things, he'd be like, I want Batman Legos. I want Harry Potter Legos. And just like, Every kind of Legos he can think of, he'd just start ordering.
That's funny.
Note to self: I know what to get Dave for Christmas.
No.
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing: those little machines, those little voice boxes, more and more of that stuff's getting integrated into things like refrigerators. Your thermostat, your televisions, all of that stuff. It's pretty soon the whole house.
It's all listening to you.
It very much is,
And the hackers too.
Exactly. So, and that's the way it's going to be. So you want to be able to, you need to own your space at this point. And if you don't own your space now, doing it every day that goes by, you don't own your space for whatever word or phrase or topic, that's the right word. It's just going to get harder and harder to do it. So own your space.
If you want to know what the future is going to be, go watch a Jetsons episode. And if you don't know what the Jetsons is, go
figure it out.
Ask Netflix or Amazon to play it for you.
Go ask an old person.
Yeah, go ask an old person.
Meet George Jetson.
Yes.
Jane, his wife. Yeah.
So we have a few more minutes here, and the question that I am always interested in knowing, and you've mentioned a ton of amazing people already, and so hopefully this doesn't put you on the spot or make it where you feel like you're leaving someone out. But I always think it's interesting, especially when you're one of those that I look to that inspires me and has inspired me in the past. And so I'm just curious, in this industry, who inspires you or who inspired you?
When I very first started, the reason I went to the conference in 2002 was to meet one person. And that was Eric Ward.
Huh.
I had read Eric's works for a number of years before I went to the show, because it was my first conference to attend. But I had been working for Jill at that point. I think since maybe mid 2000. I really don't remember. It's kind of fuzzy anymore. But he was the number one person that I wanted to meet.
Link Moses.
Yes,
Link Moses,
because he was the only person at the time.
Yeah.
And then for a long time, it was he and I, and we did so many shows together. I remember he and I and Greg Bozier, panel after panel after panel that we sat on.
I remember those too.
Yes, it was always fun to be between the boys, because they always sat me in the middle, because I was the girl. And, I think more than anybody, he was the one person that I really, really wanted to meet. And I was fortunate to know him through the years. And I think he influenced me more in the beginning than anybody else. And then the other person was Jill. I have never met anybody who has a greater compassion and sense of kindness than Jill Whalen. She's funny online, but in real life, and even online, she's warm and she's sharing, and she was always there whenever I had a question. The third person, of course, as you know, is Chris. Everybody she's known as Christine Churchill, but to us, she's Chris. I sat next to her at the show in 2002. The Chicago SCS show used to be done in Dallas, and then they changed it. And that's where we met. We were seated at a lunch table.
So wait, they went from Dallas, Texas to Chicago in November?
Yes.
That was purely cost savings.
Actually, it was in December. It was early December.
It used to be December, and it would bounce from sometimes in November, but often it was early December.
And it was so cold. But it started in Dallas, and that's where she and I sat at a lunch table together, and we started talking. We have not stopped talking. 10, 16 years later. She's somebody that I talk to almost every day. The other person was Aaron. I met Aaron when the first time Aaron ever came to a show was brand new. He had just gotten out of the Navy, and he came into this industry because he was on the forum with Jill. Jill had a forum back in the old days called the High Rankings Forum.
I remember it.
And Aaron came in as a contributor, and we started chit-chatting. And he said, "Are you going to be in New York, for the SCS New York?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "So am I." And he came into the session, and he was all of 110 pounds. He had a goth punk hairdo, and he was very goth and punk in those days. He had a leather choker around his neck that had little studs on it, like a dog collar. And he was hilarious. And we started talking, and we have not stopped talking through the years. I think he's just, his mind, a lot of people don't understand sometimes what he's getting at, but he's just so smart.
It's always interesting to read when he does post stuff.
Extremely entertaining, but it's just between the lines, he's super smart. You mentioned Simon earlier. Simon was my neighbor for a long time. He lived here in Northern Virginia with me, and we are of like mind on a lot of things. We just talk all the time. But Simon, if I have a B2B question, Simon's the one I go to, because the man is just brilliant.
If I have a question about anything British, he's my first.
Yeah, I do too. I'll come to him and say, what does this mean? What is a jumper? I didn't know what a jumper was, a sweater for the longest time. Stupid. But yeah,
They have weird English over in there.
Those people, there's just so many people, and I know I'm going to leave somebody out and they're going to be like, oh, mad at me and hurt and stuff like that. Through the years, someone that
everyone, you can blame it on me because I put it on the spot.
I will. Julie Joyce is the other one. Julie and I talk almost on a constant basis and share things and accounts and people, all the time. She is absolutely wonderful. Michelle Robbins, I can't say enough about Michelle. She's just sharp as a tack. And gave me an opportunity at Third Door Media, several years ago, that I really benefited from, and I will always be thankful for her, for that. I just can't. There's just so many people in my brain.
Should have started with this question,
yeah.
Matt.
I just go on and on and on. But learning from people all the time, there's just so many.
Well, Dave, did you have any final questions for Debra or anything?
I don't think so.
Okay. So I guess
Matt has to go.
I guess maybe just within the next minute, if you will, Debra, just kind of give people the quick where to find you, what you're doing, and we'll end it from there.
So I have a big change coming up that I'm not at liberty to discuss, but will come out and be public very soon.
Awesome.
But I also started a new site the other day. It's called Key Tools, KeyTools.com, and it is a directory of marketing tools that I have had a ton of fun putting together. So I am an old marketing girl, directory girl at heart, and so I decided, you know what, we're going to put all these things in one place because
very cool.
I'm tired of going all over my computer looking for them. I'll just stick them in one spot. So I've started it, and zillion things going on. I will definitely finish it here shortly.
I say that about most of my sites too.
I have a couple of them that are really taking a lot of my time at the moment, but the Key Tools site is just a ton of fun for me.
That's great.
And I really use it more for charitable work than I mean, anything I make, I pretty much give to the charities that are listed, so it's not a big deal.
Very cool.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, I really, this has been fun for me. This has been amazing. You've been just one of my mentors and friends forever, and so I appreciate you taking the time to share with us, Debra, and wish you the best of luck in these new ventures that you got coming up. But I really appreciate you taking the time to be on with us.
Well, I thank you so much, and you all should know that whenever I have a down day, the one person I turn to is Matt. So I'm like, Matt, I need a brights, because you are always a bright ray of sunshine with something positive to say, and that's a trait that not a lot of people have. So I appreciate that very much.
Well, thank you.
You're always there for me.
Appreciate you sharing that. So, all right, guys. Well, we appreciate everyone that has joined us on this session, and For Debra and Dave, I am Matt, and look forward to hearing you guys or having you guys back on another one of these episodes. So we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thanks, Matt.